Good morning again, everyone, and welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel. Today we're back on the dyno with a customer's project, and you know, that's a lot of what we do here at KSR. Kind of spread out between fabrication projects, complete car builds like what we've got going on in the other room for Spencer right now. Right now CJ is also working on the parachute mounts for the dually, and I'm back here doing some dyno work. So if you're wondering why we haven't gotten to my car yet, that's why. We've got lots of customers to take care of. You know, it might come as no surprise to some of you, but we got to do a lot of work to make sure that we can pay for the building and for all the employees and all that stuff. So we will get to my car, I promise. In fact, I've been ordering parts. Got a transmission on the way for it. The engine, I hope it'll be done by the end of March. So we should have that pretty soon. Give you something to see there. And then hopefully by the time we get one or maybe two projects out, we'll have space to put my car down and start working on it. So also have a big shop update coming, not next week, but a little bit after that. So anyways, today's video, for those of you truck fans, this one here is pretty freaking awesome. So this is owned by a guy named Steven, lives down in Ocala, and he built this thing. He's had it together for a while. Something we tuned a long time ago with a stock bottom end 6.0 in it. Now it's got something a little spicier in it. It's got, I think, a rod piston combination. I'm not sure if it still has a stock crank or not, but it is a twin turbo LS and it makes some power. So even cooler thing about this super hot street truck is it's all-wheel drive. Now, we're in two-wheel drive mode right now on the dyno. He's taking the front drive shaft out. But this thing on the track literally pulls around the water box. It's been as fast as 971, I believe. So, yeah, you don't want to pull up next to this thing because it just might eat your lunch. So anyways, let's get to doing some dyno tuning. Take you guys along for the ride. Alright, so for a little closer look at the engine in Steven's truck. There you go, we got some twin turbos tied in here. So we see a lot of stuff come through the shop here. And this is definitely one of the nicer projects that a customer has brought in to have us tune. A lot of times we get stuff in, stuff's not wired right, stuff's not plumbed right. We end up having to spend more time doing a ton of work to correct things that are wrong than actually tuning the vehicle. So some of you may have even sent us some messages that you've gotten the reply back that, you know, the tuning cost is one thing, and then fixing all the other things, fixing mechanical issues, is an entirely separate cost that we cannot estimate at all or even know how much it's going to cost until we get the vehicle in. So about the only thing that I feel like we need to change on here is this O2 sensor is too close to the end of the pipe there. This is something that is kind of a recent change, the exhaust through the hood on this thing. And basically what I'm getting, because I just did a little bit of driving on the thing, is the air fuel at cruise shows artificially lean. Now I turned closed loop off and just kept leaning it out, leaning it out, leaning it out, leaning it out, and the air fuel numbers that it was getting back, or the air fuel numbers that it was showing in the computer, were so lean that the engine shouldn't even run. Typically, once you get an engine, at least in my experience, under any kind of load at all at 16.5 to 17 air fuel ratio, it's not going to be happy running there under any kind of even light acceleration load at all. So I want to move the O2 sensor and see if I can get numbers that are a little bit more like that or richer, because right now it was showing above 25-to-1 air fuel because I think it's getting contamination in through the tailpipes. So one way I could try and verify that would be to clamp something onto that pipe and make it a bunch longer. But it's pretty close to the end, and I've never had any issue putting the O2 sensors very close to the turbos anyway. So I think we're gonna try and swap that out. Take me a little minute to fabricate that up. And I'm kind of running out of time today because I got to get my kids picked up and then head down to Sebring tonight to support the Viper. So those videos have probably already been out. But if you're here watching, you've already seen all that. And we'll see what I can get this taken care of, and then you'll see this video when I get it all wrapped up. So go do a little bit of work. Be back in just a minute. All right, well, we moved the O2 sensor down to there. And sometimes that's the compromise when you've got a really short exhaust system, because I'd rather sacrifice and get proper O2 readings than maybe shorten the life of the O2 by it being too hot. But anyways, I haven't had a problem with them being that close so far. Like Soccer Mom still has the original O2 sensor that we put in it 5 years ago, and its O2 sensor is pretty close to the turbo. And it's a single turbo, so you would think it would be making a lot more heat with it being a single turbo deal. It's not quite that close, but it's maybe 10 inches from the turbo, I think. It's been a little while since I've actually been into it, but same with the Lawn Dart. And they're all fairly close to the turbo because we really run pretty short exhaust systems on those cars. Soccer Mom being the longest, with it going down and out of the bottom of the fender. But anyways, we're gonna fire this thing up and do a little bit more driving now and see if things maybe act a little more normal. Let's hop in it and see if it does. All right, well, we're in the truck now. Truth be told, I cranked it up to make sure the O2 sensor relocation did something. So, it seems as though it has. So I'll show you live on the screen here. Now we're getting something a little more normal, even down at idle. So, you can hear the thing's got a pretty good sized camshaft in it. And basically when I'm tuning an idle on a car, I try and get it down to where it's as smooth acting as I can get it. So we can make it run. So you see where we're idling there, like, and I've got a timing wall here that kind of saves it if it tries to stall. I'll show you why we do that, because we drop it in gear. See how it's, when I dropped it in gear, it settled more into the 28 degrees of timing. That's just one of my little things that I like to do when it comes to tuning LS stuff. Those numbers may work for you, they may not. But at least you can stick them in there and try them. It's one of my methods, like with the timing wall thing, I kind of pull a bunch of timing out of them right into idle zone. And then right below idle, I kick it with a bunch of timing, where the timing more would want to be. And it seems like it's worked pretty well for me. Especially on stuff with really tight converters, you can band-aid that. And with it wanting to really die down when you drop it in gear, this timing trick really helps that, because the motor's running a little bit inefficient with the timing not where it needs to be, and then you drop it in gear and all the efficiency cleans up. Anyways, so that's gonna wrap it up for today for me, because I gotta go to Sebring, but I'll be back the next 5 seconds of this video. Be making some pulls. All right, well, I'm back in the shop after Sebring. Guys are making noise over there, making sparks. We put a gear in Ralph's Chevelle. We've got Steve's parachute mounts almost done. Actually, that's what CJ's working on, is the anchor point for where the parachute is gonna tether to the truck. That's the parachute mount right there. And if you hear a little rumbling in the background, I'm back on the dyno with Steven's truck. And I did work on it a little bit last night, made a few pulls, and we were having some problems with the booster pump turning on. I think I just found out why. So I fixed that, put a fresh set of plugs in for this pull. Gonna try and get like 29 pounds of boost on this pull and see what it makes for power. I already know what it did last night. I'm not gonna tell you. So let's see what it does this pull. Fresh set of plugs. We'll cool it off, read the plugs, maybe do some individual cylinder tuning. Hopefully give this thing back to Steven and he can go even deeper into the nines. So here we go. Well, it had a couple of little misfires, it felt like, there in the middle. Woo. How about 1,115 horsepower at 164 miles an hour. Peak power is basically 7,500. I turned that 7,900 on that pole. And yeah, for those of you wondering, stock stroke LS's love RPM. And this thing, 8,500, would probably turn there. I know it's got short travel lifters in it. The power's fallen over at 8 by the time I get to 7,900. So ideally this thing should be shifted at 7,900 at the racetrack. But yeah, 1,100 wheel horsepower pickup truck. This thing's rowdy. And like, I get excited about stuff like this too, because I've helped Steven out a little bit just with some, like, you know, some questions that he'll ask from time to time. But like, he built this thing himself and it's freaking rowdy. I mean, all-wheel drive, so it hooks as good on the street as it does on the track. I mean, if people race on the street, I mean, but anyways, like, just, this thing's awesome. So I'm actually gonna let it cool down a little bit, pull some spark plugs out. Maybe I didn't quite get a spark plug wire back on all the way. I did tighten the gaps on the plugs over what he had in there, but I'm gonna look at some data, figure out some different things there, and shouldn't be but another couple of pulls on this thing, if that. All right, so I took all the plugs out, and I think they show a pretty good example of at least what I'm looking for, or what I see when I say I'm reading the spark plugs. Some people don't like reading spark plugs. I kind of think it tells you what's going on exactly in the cylinder, at least from a heat standpoint. And by that, you can kind of see how the very tip of the strap is darker there. It's a little bit lighter on this one, a little bit lighter on this one, and then also a little bit darker back by the time I get to number 1. So that's 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8. And you can see how the corners on an LS engine run a little warmer, maybe even with this one being kind of more like 2. But now what I'm gonna do, because I can't go backwards on the heat to put the cadmium back on, because that's a cadmium burn we're looking at. And so now what I'm gonna do, even though these only have 1 run on them, I'm gonna put another fresh set of plugs in for the next pull, make my timing per cylinder adjustments. I'll probably pull a degree, maybe 1.2 out of each of the corners, and then leave the middle cylinders alone, make another pull, see what the heat mark looks like, and then from there, probably go ahead and call it a day. So the power will probably come down just a little bit. That kind of heat is safe on the dyno, but make a longer pull at the racetrack, and this thing being as heavy as it is, I'm sure it's gonna put a little bit more heat in the plugs on the racetrack. So what I'm gonna do is try and pull the heat back closer to the tip of the spark plug. And in doing that, should be safe to go ahead and take it to the track after that. So I expect the power will fall down probably 15 to 20, maybe even 30 at that same power level, or at that same boost level. And beyond that, we've got a couple more pounds of boost we can add to it before we run out of map sensor. So I've got some work to do. It's gonna be a little darker by the time I get it done, but Gotta go gap another set of plugs, stick them in, crank it up, do a pull. See you then. Also, just for another quick point of reference, new spark plug. Spark plug that's pretty close, I think, on timing. So maybe that'll help you guys. So this is kind of what I'm looking for when it comes to burning the strap, let's call it. So we're looking on the porcelain for any speckling, which would indicate detonation, which there is absolutely none, which also kind of confirms the timing mark. And with ethanol fuels, typically you can go past the point of making power before they really start detonating, unless you're getting really aggressive down near peak torque, which I don't typically do. So go finish putting the plugs in, make another pull, give you guys some more data. All right, well, all the plugs are back in it. I'm gonna fire it up, make another pull on right at 30 PSI with the timing out of the corners. Gotta warm it back up a little bit so that my testing is consistent. So I've been testing at 180 degree coolant temp, and it's about 90 degrees on the air inlet temp when I step into the throttle. So, here we go. How much taking the timing out affected the power. It actually made a little more. So that was where that misfire was right there. We fixed that, which one of the plug wires wasn't quite on all the way, I feel like. But even out here, it's actually making 9 better. Down a little tiny bit right there, carried out a little bit. I mean, this thing makes power all the way. That was 7,970 RPM when I lifted on, according to the ECU. Yeah, 79 on there. I mean, basically it's still at 1,064 out at 7,900. Peak power is at 151 miles an hour, which is, there's the 1121. But even out here at 7,700, it's still making 1,100 to the tire. So I'm gonna head out and get my kids from school, and then I'll read the plugs in the morning, show you guys that. And then this one will be probably done. We'll see. See you in just a minute. All right, well, I went ahead and pulled the plugs out of it, and we got a little bit better balance on them than what we had before. See a little bit harder line on those, more so than pulled all the way back like what we had before. Other side's still a little bit aggressive. So I'm gonna pull another degree out of this side and probably pull about a half a degree out of that one. And then we're gonna take this thing to the racetrack. So Steven's got some goals for the truck. I'm not gonna tell him, but maybe we'll get that in a video at a later date. But yeah, that's gonna wrap up this video. Nothing like, just, you know, 1,100 plus wheel horsepower street truck. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time.